You guys know that Monday is a national championship, and we've been talking about that ad nauseum for the past about 7 or 8 days or so. We talked about, by the way, the full preview for the national championship that Tuesday. So we won't really talk about it here that much, but you guys do realize that we have not only the national championship on Monday, we also have Martin Luther King Day, which has always been on this time of the year, but it's also the presidential inauguration. So January 20th, 2025 is probably, as of right now, in this, we're, fairly young into the new year, busiest day of the year. 3 major things going on in one day. I don't think that's ever happened before, at least in my lifetime, but man, January 20th, a busy day for a lot of us, especially here in America because of the inauguration and, of course, national championship and MLK Day. So busy day for a lot of us. Not to mention we have NFL playoff games going on. The Buccaneers will be a part of that. Well, but doesn't mean we can't talk about college football. Got a massive show today. Fairly massive show. Got a Clemson hiring Tom Allen. Touched on that a little bit. We'll, I guess, disclose more about that. Manny Diaz is building something at Duke. I'll just say that he is building something at Duke. I think he is being undervalued a little bit. Touched on that actually back, what was it? Back in the summer, I believe, when Manny was hired at Duke. I don't think a lot of folks are paying attention to what he's doing over there. They could be a player for sure. I'm very, very interested to see what they will look like. Not only that, on tap today, we have the Mandalorian and Grogu movie. Some new news on that. Captain Eric Brave New World. Concerns, if you will. I have some concerns on that movie. That is coming out. We also have Daredevil Born Again trailer. Finally came out. That show was actually coming out here in about a month or so, a month and a half. Then I got some more topics in there as well. Whatever topic about College Football 25. And no less, of course, I'm doing the topic on the video game. They announced, EA officially announced that the game is, of course, there's going to be a re-release going on now until the foreseeable future. But CFP 26, yes, it is coming, and yes, it is releasing this summer. So, kids, get your priorities straight. Get your calendars checked off. There's no formal release date yet. That will probably come at some point in May, I would assume. But at least get your calendars in check. Finish up on whatever dynasties you had left in College Bowl 25 or whatever else you want to do with it. Of course, you have a long time between now and then. But I had a topic on College Bowl 25 and play calling, no less. Something that I brought up wasn't just me bringing it up, but some of the other industry and the insiders have also mentioned it as well. So I will dive into that as well. If you are new here by chance, if you have stumbled upon this show, we're fairly new. We're 4 subscribers strong. Nothing wrong with that. If you're new here, make sure you subscribe. Add on to that number. We don't want to be staying at 4 subscribers forever, so continue to add on, if you will, to that number. Get your friends and family to do so if they love college football. If they're big Marvel fans or Star Wars fans or even Tampa Bay Buccaneers fans, even though we don't necessarily talk about those topics every single day on this show, you're more welcome to subscribe. If nothing happens, I don't, knock on your door and force you to sign a form, or I don't call you on your phone or email you or text you or whatnot. It's completely free. No other incentives either. Just make sure you subscribe. If you want notifications on YouTube, go ahead. Be sure to follow us on Spotify as well. That's where the show originated from. We just only started doing the YouTube as well, streaming back in October, I believe, if I recall correctly. This is, by the way, episode 60, was it 63? I believe, is that right? Let me double check here. 64, 63 was Tuesday. But I've been doing this for 63 episodes. So been going strong for a while here. So make sure you tap into the Spotify feed as well. Make sure you follow us on Twitter as well. Fort Verts _pod on Twitter. You can find me there. That's a lot of action going on there as well. A lot of thoughts and initial reactions and stuff like that. So if you want sort of in the moment reactions to things, go to Twitter. But for the podcast feed, especially YouTube, Spotify, those are the places I would highly recommend you go to for that. Of course, YouTube is here as well. And before we go too far into the show, just to double check that we are actually, you can hear me. Okay, so you guys can hear me. That's fantastic. So let's buckle up here and let's dive into the show. So Clemson hired Tom Allen from Penn State. That's sort of old news. I touched on it on Tuesday, just a little bit, but I wanted to talk about a little bit more here. Talk about the Clemson side for just a second, then we'll touch on the Penn State side. But for Clemson, this is kind of a big deal for Dabo Swinney and them. I think the narrative, narrative sort of discussion, I guess maybe a better term to put it, the discussion around Dabo Swinney and Clemson for the past probably 4 years, ever since Trevor Lawrence left the building there or left campus, is that, well, the program's gotten stale. They've not made the best hires. They've just imported people. They haven't imported people from other places. They've just promoted from within. And some of those hires have not been good enough. Some of the offensive coordinator hires they made before they brought in Garrett Riley, Wes Goodwin, who was the coordinator prior to Tom Allen. He was promptly fired after the season. I have no problem with that. At least problem in terms of, I think you've seen enough of him. It's not been good enough, or at least it's been good, but it's not been what the Clemson standard has been. When you look at Clemson defensively, I think once Brent Venables took that Oklahoma job, of course you can make the argument. It's very simple. Excuse me. It's fairly simple to point out, yes, the defense has not been performing well enough, but it's not even been like just the Clemson average standard. Like the Clemson average standard is having top 15, top 10-ish defense, having really good defensive linemen, and they haven't really had that, that much lately, which is sort of to a fault of Dabo Swinney for not using the transfer portal, and some of it, of course, they also have talent there. It's not like Clemson's just, breathing and gasping for talent. That hasn't been either A, developed properly, or they haven't went into the portal and replenished or sort of gotten more depth behind talented players who either were injured or have just left for the NFL. I think hiring Tom Allen, as a outsider for the first time since, at least on defensively, like God knows for how long, is definitely a step in the right direction. Definitely a sign, if you will, that changes are happening. Not to mention that Dabo has been dabbling into the portal a little bit. So clearly there are some changes there at Clemson that are happening. Yes, is this, and Dabo finally taking guys in the portal. Is this a sign that changes are happening there? Of course it's a sign of changes. If you're a Clemson fan, you live in, Spartanburg, anywhere in the region, not just putting out Spartanburg just for randomly, because, that's where good old Tyler is from. Hopefully he may be listening to the show even. If you're a Clemson fan, it doesn't matter where you live, really. It doesn't matter where. You should be happy. You should look at this as a good thing. This is progress. This is different than what you've been doing with for the past 4 years, where it's just been promoting from within, not importing people, coaches or players, keeping them within the Clemson family and seeing it sort of staled out a little bit, and having people like Josh Pate calling you out after you lose to Louisville this year when you're off a bye, no less. So yes, this feels good. You should be happy, but I also would caution you a little bit. This isn't something that's just going to change in one season or no less. I mean, next year's going to be tough. You get LSU at home. I know Josh Pate brought it up on Tuesday, and I kind of agree. It's going to be the annoying, I wish Death Valley's the real one. Well, I don't care. Like, it's a nickname of the stadium. Like, there doesn't matter which one's better. They both have their positives and their negatives to them. Whatever. We can talk about that. Other folks can talk about that. Of course, I'm more excited about the actual game itself, and that's week 1, I believe. So how about that? Clemson, South Carolina, week 1. Clemson versus LSU. Two very different teams. A lot of pressure, no less, on both coaching staffs. Competitive pressure, not hot seat pressure. Like Dabo Swinney's not going anywhere. Brian Kelly's not, going over either. So I don't want to hear people using Brian Kelly's on the hot seat. Well, cool. I got water from my fridge today. Like, what else do you... Whatever. I'm not going to get mad here. I usually don't get mad and usually stop myself, but that's going to be an interesting game for Clemson. I don't expect their problems they've had for the past 4 years to be magically solved come this fall. It's not going to. It's going to take a little bit of time. You have Tom Allen there. You have decent enough talent there. You've recruited fairly well. You got this thing build a little bit. It's sort of like when you're building a house a little bit now, let alone that's coming from someone who's not built a house before, unless if you've done it on Minecraft. But you have to build a foundation to make improvements. It's not like Dabo Swinney and Clemson right now, if you want to use the house metaphor. It's not like the house has like asbestos and you're having to like totally tear down the building. No. You're just making some renovations. You're changing the walls out. Maybe a new coat of paint, changing the windows out. Maybe you're rewiring, maybe you're installing some new Wi-Fi or whatever. That's what Clemson's doing. Clemson is sort of just renovating some stuff finally, even though they probably could have been doing it 4 years ago. But look, it was Dabo's decision. I'm not here to sound like I'm smarter than him. Luckily, he has made a fairly agreeable decision here to make some wholesale changes. Sort of started when they hired Garrett Riley. Now you're seeing Tom Allen come in. And now you're seeing him finally getting into the transfer portal. Not heavily using it like some other schools like Florida State, but using a good combination of both transfers and recruiting. That's the way college football, at least that's the way I see it. If you want to have decent enough success, you got to use Dabo into both. Not using one exclusively, but combining both and having a good mixture. That's what Clemson, if Dabo Swinney just does that, at least generally here from looking at it from a very high perspective, you can see Clemson being back to where they were just a couple years ago, like making the playoff and winning a couple of games, having a little more success than going, we went 9-3, congrats, yay. Like, I mean, I know there would be a lot of teams and fan bases that would love to have that, going 9-3, but that's not the Clemson standard. The Clemson standard is being successful, competing for national championships, at least in this modern era of Clemson. Now, if you want to go back into the college football history books and the Wikipedia pages and stuff, yeah, Clemson's not been a traditional power, and they won't be a traditional power. But Clemson in the modern era, their standard is not 9-3, cool. We made it to that kind of conference championship game, cool. Lost in the playoffs, whatever. That's not the standard there. I think Dabo Swinney knows that. I think there has been some pressure behind the scenes to make changes. He has been stubborn about that. I probably would too if I was a coach too. But he's been making changes. You're not going to see the results. Like I just said, it's going to take some time. It's, like I said, just building a house. It's not like when you start renovating a house or doing any other type of construction. Those all going to take a while, right? I mean, it's like you're not going to reap the results to day one immediately from these changes you're making at Clemson. It's going to take a little bit. It may take a couple years until you start to see a lot of these things sort of start to manifest themselves, like the changes of using the portal, having Tom Allen come in as a new, fresh, brand new ideas. And you sort of seeing that with Garrett Riley. Garrett Riley comes in, last year, and here they are losing to Duke. And, speaking of Duke, we'll talk about Manny Diaz and company later. You lose to Duke and Mike Elko, a couple years ago, week one, and Garrett Riley's first game as the OC, and everyone's like acting like the program's falling apart, like it's going the way of the dinosaur. That's not happening. Like that wasn't the results you were going to get. If there are any positive results that were going to come of that, you're going to see that week one. It was going to take a little bit. You saw that slowly happen. And now you saw what happened with Clemson last year. Offensively, actually had a fairly decent year. Kate Klubnik had probably the best year of his college career. Now he's coming back with another year under Garrett Riley. I can just say this, and I'll touch more on this once we get past the national championship. I would expect Clemson to have a big year next year. I think there is a lot of pressure there, competitive pressure, with the hirings of Tom Allen, with Garrett Riley year 3, Kate Klubnik year 3 with him, that you're going to, especially now with the power vacuum in the ACC, with Florida State being what Florida State's going to be next year, Miami we'll see. There's a power vacuum there, and Clemson can very well take control of that and potentially continue to have some have similar success they've had in the past, potentially this coming up fall. It's not a guarantee, but at least I would assume there is pressure there. But again, like I just said, you shouldn't reasonably expect the results of these new changes you're seeing to immediately happen, like come week one. You're not going to see that manifest that quickly. It may take a little bit. Heck, it may happen the next season, but it's going to be maybe like week 7, week 8, week 9 when you really start to see those things sort of manifest. I'm sure as a fan you don't want to hear that, but this isn't college football. Speaking of college football 25, this isn't college football 25 where, oh man, my dynasty file is a whole mess. I'm not winning anything. Oh, I can just start over and just delete this file. You can't do that. This is the real world. There are consequences. There is jobs on the line. There is money on the line. There is results on the line. So if you're if you're a Clemson fan, even if you're a Clemson fan, not a Dabo supporter, you at least got to let these changes manifest and then reap the results. Like that. That's sort of the way I would approach if I were a Clemson fan. That you're not going to see the results of these changes like immediately. That's not the way I would originally expect that to happen this year. So yes, I applaud Dabo Swinney for making the changes he made. Where he has been making portal, bringing in Tom Allen, new, fresh idea, and actually someone who is qualified, by the way, to be a defensive coordinator versus what, offense to Wes Goodwin, but similar to, who was it, the guy at Ohio State a couple years ago, Kerry Combs, who was Ryan Day's DC before Jim Knowles, and that was his first DC, or like defensive coordinator job, proper defensive coordinator job, even though he's been, Kerry Combs was coaching like defense for like 15 plus years. So you saw it happen with Ryan Day, and it paid off slowly, but you've seen it pay off for Ryan Day with hiring Jim Knowles. If you're Dabo Swinney or Clemson, that's the blueprint, is to have Tom Allen be your Jim Knowles or be similar in that role, like where it's a major hire. You're really excited. It may not necessarily work fully in year one, but year two, year three, you may get some big results there. So if you're a Clemson fan, just hold your breath. I think it's going to be okay. You're making some changes. Finally, I know a lot of you guys have been desperately wanting Dabo to not only use the portal, but also bring in some fresh ideas there. You did it with the offense. It finally took him a little bit to get to the defense. But like I said, and we'll move on, you may not see those results manifest themselves this season, but in years to come, like next year and the year after, very well, so maybe in this year too. Like I said, it may not take immediately week 1 against LSU, but come like week 7, week 8, week 9, week 10, week 11, week 12, you may start to see those results come all around by then than earlier in the season. So my thoughts on Tom Allen going to Clemson. The Penn State side, we'll see who the candidates are. I'm not going to dive into that here, but I think James Franklin and company, they've already been through this before. Manny Diaz leaving and taking the Duke job. We'll touch on him in just a second. But also now Tom Allen leaving and some other staff turnover they've had there. They'll be fine. They'll hire someone, I'm sure, who'll be well qualified, I believe. But haven't seen any updates yet in terms of that and hiring being made. So we'll see what Penn State decides to do there. So as we transition to the Duke segment of Manny Diaz, well, he's not coming on the show. It's just a segment about him and Duke. Let me get some water real quick and get things set up here. So just stand by. By the way, I am fully aware of some of the how should I address this? Sort of the developing stories are going on with both Belichick and Deion. The Deion Sanders stuff at the Cowboys, I'm monitoring it. I'm paying attention to it. It's clearly a developing story. It's not. I wasn't going to put a segment here for that or the Belichick rumors, which between the two, the Belichick stuff, it's like I don't think that's as serious as the Deion stuff, which I do believe it's real. The Deion to Dallas is real, but I'm monitoring it. I'm not doing a full segment on here, but if something were to happen on that, just as we're transitioning the subjects here, be on the lookout for a possible Four Verticals Extra episode could come if that ends up happening. But at the moment, it's not happening, but I am monitoring it. It's a developing story for sure. But the Belichick stuff, I wouldn't pay attention to it that much. I don't think that's like a real thing, but whatever. I know everyone's making a big deal about, his contract hasn't been signed yet, but it's not the most unique thing we've ever seen in college football. Like, it's not unusual for that to happen. So, just thought I'll let you know. What do you guys think of, what do you think of Manny Diaz? I'm sure some Miami fans would feel different about that. His time there in Coral Gables was somewhat frowned upon. I would, to an certain extent, agree. But also knowing it was Manny's first time as a head coach, right? He gets there, Mark Richt, well, believe it or not, let's actually backtrack here. Diaz actually takes the Temple head coaching job. He's there for about 5 days or so, or not even that. Mark Richt retires immediately because of health issues. He has, what is it? Some neurological disease. I think it's Parkinson's, I believe. Yeah, Parkinson's disease, which is horrible, by the way. It really sucks. But so Mark Richt has to step away. Manny comes in sort of like an interim type situation, not really, sort of has to shepherd in the team. Coming into 2019, rough year, to say the least, losing to FIU, no less on the grave side of the Orange Bowl. Then 2020 happens. You get Derek King from Houston. You bring him in. You thought you would have your star quarterback there. You kind of did. The season doesn't go the way you thought it would, not to mention it's 2020, and it's not a traditional season. Year two under I can't, well, before Cam Ward, you had the Eric King. Year two of the Eric King was nothing to write home about, injuries and stuff. And then he gets fired after, or not long after. So it was a very tenuous 3 or 4 years of Manny Diaz experiment. Like I said, it was his first time being a head coach. And when Manny Diaz got hired at Duke, sort of like a lot of these other coaches you've been, rehired, like Sark, for example. Now, I didn't have to show when he got hired at Texas, but the thinking I had then when Sark was hired at Texas was he failed at, well, he didn't necessarily fail at Washington. He failed at USC, both on the field and off the field mostly. I wonder what things has he learned that viable lessons. Of course, he was with Nick Saban as an assistant for a number of years. He's had some time to think about it, get his life back together. What lessons has he learned from what happened to USC to improve upon? Like, what mistakes did he make there that he's not going to make anywhere else? So far, so good at Texas. Like I said on Tuesday, he is by far the good guy he's the right guy for the job there. I fully expect Texas to be a competitor in the playoff and especially in the SEC for a long time. A long time. They've been done very well in recruiting. On the field results too have been. I know it's not been what you wanted, but look, if you want to go, if you really don't like Mississippi Sarkisian, you think, him losing the semifinal qualifies for him to get fired, then go back to the Tom Herman, Charlie Strong years, and if you want to go back to that, then go right ahead. That's your program. It's the team you're cheering for, not me. But like I was sort of bringing this back to Manny Diaz, when Manny got the job last year, and I mentioned this back in the summer, I felt like sort of the same way when I was talking about Scott Frost at UCF, him back there again. What lessons did Manny Diaz learn at Miami that he's not going to make? Any of the mistakes that he made there that he's not going to make anywhere else? He's had time to let this sort of settle out. Was that Penn State of James Franklin sort of what Sark did with Nick Saban, sort of there learning under him, actually having access to him, to a guy who's been doing it for a little more sustainable than he has. Now here he's at Duke, replacing Mike Elko, who is at Texas A&M now. And then they go 9-3 in the regular season. Huge year for Duke. Like, if you think about the history of Duke football, you just say, oh, it's David Cutcliffe and that's it. And then maybe, Daniel Jones. Well, besides David Cutcliffe, there's not been much right home about Duke football. Frankly, it's sort of in that same realm as Kansas, Vanderbilt. Most years now, of course, ever since Clark Lee and Barton Simmons, and GM Barton Simmons has been there, a little bit different, but Vanderbilt, Kansas, Wake Forest, I guess Maryland to a certain extent, Indiana, most years. Sort of in that same realm where it's sort of cultural purgatory, where it's just places that do not necessarily invest the same way as other big some of the big boys, which is fine, but those schools focus on different things like academics, or in other cases basketball, like Duke, Kansas, Indiana, which is a little bit different, which is understandable. It's a different atmosphere there, but I think what Manny Diaz is building over there, he's building a foundation. He is not only learning from his mistakes that he made at Miami, but he's building the foundation for success there. Sort of what Mike Elko did too at Duke, which is hard to do, because when Manny got there, I mean, you think about what Mike Elko did at Duke for 2 years. It's incredible. Sort of like what James Franklin did at Vanderbilt. Like what James Franklin did at Vanderbilt, and I've always fought this, contrary to what some folks think of him. I think he deserves a statue at Vanderbilt, because we did there for especially those 2 years, and back-to-back 9-win seasons and being ranked in the polls. Just incredible. It's like that is something that I never thought I'd ever see again in my lifetime at Vanderbilt before this past season with Clark Lee and company, Diego Pavia and Barton Simmons, the GM there. But I look at what Manny Diaz is doing there. He's knocking out of the portal, getting pause myself here because this the name of this is it Messiah, I believe is the quarterback, Demarion Messiah. Apology if that name was mispronounced. I should have probably done the Google Translate, speak it to you back. But Menzia, I think that's who he is. It's the quarterback from Tulane, who was with John Sternwall. He comes in. Of course, they had easy enough for me to say. They had Malik Murphy there for a year. Came from Texas. I remember the whole story with him, where a lot of especially teams in the southeastern region were reaching out to him through back channels to get in the portal. He didn't stay last year. Then he ends up leaving, goes to Duke with Manny Diaz. Has some success there. Again, pretty good success there. 9 wins again, like 2, I think, back-to-back, or at least 9 wins in 3 years. I think that's what it is. Yeah, 2 9-win seasons in 3 years. And he leaves because they bring in the kid from Tulane. He's a very good quarterback. He was in the portal. I think he was like the third or second best quarterback in the portal when he was in there. So it's pretty good. And he's really good. And I think there's a reason why that staff there, because Malik Murphy could have easily just stayed at Duke. I mean, he could have, but I think the discourse, if you will, with that whole situation was, okay, we're bringing in a really talented quarterback from the G5 ranks. He's really, really good. And this is me speaking, if I were Manny Diaz, look, Malik, we need you to go elsewhere. I will help you, but we found someone that's a little more different. If you want to stay here, that's fine. But if you want to leave, we'll help you. I think that's what happened. There's probably more of a gentleman's agreement. Now Malik Murphy's at Oregon State. Now you have Mencia. Again, I believe that's his name. Apologies if I mispronounced that, but I believe that's what it is, Mencia. Now he's there. They've had pretty good portal class as well. Not just him. They've also brought in some decent talent as well. Some good depth pieces there. Some receivers, running back, offensive tackle, defensive lineman, and a safety, no less, from St. Houston, no less. But again, not only did you go 9 wins last year, but your schedule this year pretty favorable. I know we're not doing the full-on, season preview. We'll start that come May, but just early peek of the schedule here. Now, it's not been determined, so this will, at least the majority of the schedule, but you have an FCS team, Illinois, Tulane, so how about that? Mencia versus his former, versus John Summerall, so how about that? That could be a low-key, sneaky G5 P4 game right there. So if you're looking for a really, like a sicko type game, in the words of Bud Elliott, going sicko mode, early prediction, that could be a college football sicko's wet dream. Well, that sounds kind of strange to say that, but that kind of is. It's like a former G5 quarterback going against his old team, and it's on the road too at the stadium he used to play at. Like, that is cinema. Just absolute cinema. Excited about that game. I think that's September 13th, so that's week 3. So I don't have to wait that long for Mencia to return back to Yeoman Stadium there. But it's a fairly manageable schedule, and with some of the guys that Duke is bringing back, some of the guys who didn't leave, this could be a very dangerous team. Again, a lot of people were trashing Manny Diaz toward the same way they were trashing Scott Frost. It's all about the lessons you learn that you can use that in when you return. And I think both those guys, Manny Diaz and Scott Frost, did kind of what I think Kevin Stillman should have done. And not just me saying that. Josh Page brought it up too, where someone after Texas A&M takes the Arizona job, just gross. Like, I don't like, if you're an Arizona fan, like, that's if you want to forget about that, it's horrible. If you don't remember, then I would not recommend looking it up. Just it's contraband. It's not something I would recommend you watching. Definitely rated R content there, but that Kevin Stillman goes from A&M, goes to Arizona. It's horrible. I agree with Josh Pate here. He probably should have taken some time off, maybe take a coordinator job, go to TV. He should have getting back into coaching immediately. Probably not the move, at least I would have made. But then again, I'm not Kevin Stillman. I'm not his agent, so I don't know what was going on there or what the appeal was. But no less, he goes back and straight back into coaching, and it fails spectacularly. But that's not what Scott Frost and Manny Diaz did. They waited their turns, waited for the right job to open up, and lo and behold, here they are, 2 failed head coaches at both major P4 programs, and here they are getting second chances, and ironically, the 2 lowest conferences of the P4. So I'm just wondering, what lessons has Manny Diaz learned that he can improve upon? Like, what things has he learned that he will, not make the same mistakes that he did at Miami is not making here? I think so far he's sort of learned that stuff, but then again, it's just year one, and we'll see what the rest of his tenure goes. And the same with Scott Frost. This year could be a great year for UCF again with him being back there. But then again, there's always the worry that it's his first year. Let's just see how this thing builds out. I'm not going to jump to conclusions, but very excited for the future of Duke football. I think with Manny Diaz being there, if they hire right, their staff, by the way, is pretty good. Jonathan Brewer there, second year. Guy who's been around for a while. He's a GA at Auburn, by the way. So Gus Malzahn, disciple there with Rhett Lashley. So kind of sort of in that same tree. Could be a rising name too. Jonathan Brewer would be a name, especially with maybe like the G5 route, maybe even the P4 route for some of those other big boy schools are looking for a offensive coordinator in the future. Could be him. Put up some big numbers. I know the bowl game didn't look good, but that Duke team was for all intents and purposes, a zombie Duke team. So you can say what it is, but Duke in 2025, based on that schedule, it's a mixed bag. Some tough games and hard games. We have to go out to Berkeley, which is just crazy to think about. A team on the East Coast going out to the West Coast for a conference game. Like, does that make sense to you? Of course, now college football geography is not a thing anymore. So it's like a team you can see, literally probably see Hawaii and Japan, can go play games in, Clemson, South Carolina, or in Tallahassee, Florida, or in like Syracuse, New York. Like, great, good job, guys. You understood the assignment. Anyway, but yeah, Duke football, Manny Diaz, very excited to see what this looks like year two. I think a lot of folks kind of didn't really realize that Duke went 9-4 last year, or 9-3 regular season, had a very good year. And again, this is after Mike Elko leaves. Again, mind you, that's tough to follow up sometimes, especially with the roster turnover. You lose a really good head coach, up and coming head coach, and now you bring in Manny Diaz, and everyone's so concerned, like, oh no, it's the guy that ruined Miami supposedly, and then here he is at Duke, a lesser team, a lesser program, by the way, with resources, commitment, probably not lacking in the nutrition nor in the strength and conditioning, because it's it's Duke, private school, has a ton of money, of course, with basketball being a big thing there. I'm pretty sure their nutrition program's top notch. With mostly lesser talent and lesser resources, and here they are going 9-4. It's like, oh man, how'd that happen? Well, Manny Diaz learned his mistakes, it sounds like, or at least he is applying the things he has learned, and they did a pretty good job doing that last year. Can he do it? Can he duplicate that to next year? Well, to next season, come this fall. I don't know for sure, but we'll see. Again, that's a team, and Duke, I'll be paying attention to it just a little bit. Again, that week 3 game, Duke at Tulane. By the way, the coaching matchup too, John Sturmerall versus Manny Diaz. Again, I know Josh Pate's been hammering it home, along with some of the other industry insiders, but John Sturmerall too, man. He's a guy that, especially in the southeastern region, if any big jobs open up next year, particularly, even though I don't have much joy in saying that, but for some reason they do, John Sturmerall would be if I were a athletic director in the southeastern, it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be the southeastern region. It could be anywhere. John Sturmerall would be my number one call on any coaching search. I would heavily pursue him. Don't know him personally, but just when I've heard from him, watching his teams, paying attention to what he did at Troy and what he's doing now at Tulane. Very professional, SEC background guy. Someone that I don't think anyone like 5 years ago would be like, who the heck is that? And then fast forward, it's like, oh yeah, the guy who did really good stuff at Troy is at Tulane now. It's like, oh yeah, that guy. Yeah, he's really good. Yeah, he is. He's a very good head coach. So yeah, I guess in terms of a G5 P4 matchup there, Tulane versus Duke. That's a game I have circled on my calendar as a must-watch TV this fall. Let alone we're talking about, a game that's taking place on September 13th, about like 11 months from now. So how about that? But yeah, Duke football, very excited for the future and what Manny Diaz is building there. He's building something over there. Is it sustainable? I don't know, but based on what I'm seeing, it very well could, and it may not, but I am at least excited and very interested to see what next year brings for them, because I think he is building something there, and especially the addition of the quarterback there from Tulane. Very, very pleased to see what Manny is doing over there. Very, very excited. How about that? An ACC heavy show here. Very rare to have that. And, since my show is small enough, can't call me SEC bias. We're doing topics on the ACC, so I'm sure the Danny Cannells of the world are happy with me right now. He's clapping. If he's listening to this, he's, you know, you know, waving the pom poms and clapping. And Danny, if you're listening, this may not have been for you, or may not have been geared towards you, but I'm sure this show feels like it's for you. So how about that? A Clemson topic and a Duke topic. No SEC today, I guess. Gonna get some water here, then we'll move on to some Star Wars news. Then we'll finish out the show with some Marvel stuff and another the College Football 25 topic. So. All right, so I think we're definitely finally going to have a hour-long show today. So how about that? I guess as we're here, if you will, in the middle part of the show, once again, reminder, if you're new here, welcome in. Make sure you subscribe. If you didn't do it earlier, just check. I know I've done it before too, where, certain YouTube channels I watch religiously, I don't subscribe to them. I'm like, oh, that's what I thought I did. Click the button. It's fairly easy. I'm sure most of you have fingers or hands. Most of you don't. That's okay. No disqualifying people, our amputee brethren. We feel for you and whatnot, but if you're able to subscribe to the channel, follow us on Twitter, Spotify feed as well. Same thing. So just be sure you follow us. Again, that's all we ask for. Again, doesn't matter what background you're from or whatever. Everyone's welcome here. So just all you have to do is subscribe. If you need to have your friends and family do it too, because again, we're 4 subscribers strong. I don't know if I want to stay there forever, but just make sure you get the word out. Of course, make sure to follow us on Twitter as well. That's where mostly everyone's who's followed us has discovered us. I guess, should I say this? I'll save it for whatever. Well, I guess I could bring it up. Still waiting to hear back from some of the folks I messaged for guest speaking purposes. I'll have nothing to update yet, but I'll let you guys know if anything happens. But still working on that at this point. So the Mandalorian, and moving on to, by the way, Star Wars topic here. By the way, there's no Bucks topic here. We'll probably have one at some point, but since the season's over, you'll probably see less and less of those. Or I guess until the draft, but the Mandalorian Grogu movie that's coming out next year. Still, I'm not used to the title yet, but whatever. There's been a lot of discourse around it, a lot of nervousness, a lot of some of the leaks and rumors, like some of the casting rumors and stuff, and who's not been confirmed, who has been confirmed. Very confusing, very, very secretive over there. It's not like it's not like the movies behind, like it's not in like the National Registry or anything. It's not like it's in the FBI or archives or anything, but who knows, maybe it is. But so Christian Harloff, not a friend of the program, but someone who I do watch a lot. I believe it was him and John Roker earlier this week were on, and he's sort of, Christian's in the know for the Hollywood pop culture stuff, particularly with like Marvel and Star Wars stuff. He's a big Star Wars fan. If you don't remember him, he used to work for Collider, and then some other stuff happened. I'm not going to get into his whole history. You can look up his Wikipedia page. I don't have to spell it out for you. But him and John Roca were on their podcast on, was it Monday or Tuesday? I think it was Tuesday or Monday. I don't know. Maybe I think it is Monday. But either way, towards the beginning of the week. So here they were talking. A Christian sort of spills some tea a little bit, and some leaks and stuff he's heard about the plot of the movie. What this Mandalorian Grogu movie is going to be. So we've heard for a while that the guy from The Bear, I forget his name. It's like Jeremy something, who was playing Jabba's son. That's right, the little hut from the original Clone Wars movie, which is, I still can't wrap my head around that. He's actually going to be a live action movie. Okay, if you think that is something that the fans and the general audience can get behind, hey, look, I was there day one when the movie came out, so I'm not complaining about seeing old, I guess, animated show legacy characters. But I don't know if the general public's going to be on the side of, or at least the general public will be down with that. But look, I haven't seen the movie yet, so who knows? It could actually work out somehow. But that's not the only big character that's coming back from the animation. Now, of course, we have Zeb from Star Wars Rebels, who was in Mandalorian season 3, not in Ahsoka for some reason. I know that still boggles the mind why he was not in that show. I don't know how. Like, how do you film that bad? Because you had the rest of the characters there from Rebels. You had the majority of the cast, the ones who are still alive, but you don't have Zeb in there. To me, that's mind-boggling, which is a word I really don't use that much. So, what Christian reveals is that the plot in the movie is the bounty hunter Embo from Clone Wars. It's the guy with the desk-looking hat, uh, who, by the way, is voiced by Dave Filoni too. So it's like, it makes sense, kind of easy. You have the guy's voice actor there, probably be similar to Cad Bane, have the voice actor do ADR afterwards, have a guy in the suit. So he'll be the main villain of the movie, and he is going to be the one who is sort of, I guess, capturing or having held hostage Jabba's son. It sounds awfully familiar to the original Clone Wars movie, which again, look, I was there day one. I saw the movie. I know a lot of folks trash on it. Look, it's not perfect, but as someone who grew up in that era of Star Wars in like the mid to late 2000s, I have a soft spot for it. I have a lot of nostalgia for it. Is it like a movie I would distribute to most of my friends? Probably not. But so that came out earlier this week. So the question is, when that came out, it's a more of an obscure character, but two obscure characters, sort of this, bounty hunter, versus bounty hunter thing, which is not something we've not seen, or something that we have seen before. So it's not anything new. The question has really been, since that news came out, is that enough to carry this movie? Like, is that actually like movie worthy? Because the original rumors that have been out there, well, at least the rumors are out there, I think like this time last year, that this was supposed to be a season 4 of Mandalorian on TV. Like, that was the original plan, to have this on Disney Plus, have a debut. I guess it would have been this year, I guess, or actually next year. I don't recall if there was a date or a reasonable target date. So that was the original plan. It's supposed to be a TV, or at least a season of TV on Disney Plus. And because there's been so many delays of the Rey movie and all this, typical Lucasfilm slop, they had to push some stuff back. There's an open date. They haven't had a Star Wars film this decade be released in theaters, which is also mind-boggling. That's 2 or 3 mind-bogglings now in the show, technically 4. So they had to put something out there to, like, okay, we have Dave's movie coming out, which is this whole Filoniverse, I guess, grand finale, if you will. Let's put out something to sort of whet the appetite of the fan base until that movie comes out, and then Ahsoka season 2 comes out. Let's get something out in the theaters. We haven't put something out yet this decade. Let's just get it out there. It doesn't matter if it's this is supposed to be a season of television, whatever. Again, in principle, of course, with the way Lucasfilms run, it's not the most sane way of doing things. Though I would wonder if anyone else had other ideas for that. I certainly have my own personal ideas on how they should have went about this, but nothing we can do about it. It's already, I think, wrapped up filming, I believe, or at least getting ready to. It'll be out next year, which is kind of strange. We have to wait a whole calendar year for this movie to come out. Some of it probably VFX heavy. Maybe there's just a lot more films that were more priority. I don't know. But will this plot of having, Mando, Grogu versus Baby Yoda versus Embo, and I guess trying to get Jabba's son back, like, is that worthy of a movie? Because again, that on the surface, it definitely feels like a season of television, which this was originally supposed to be. Is this enough to carry a movie that's going to make $1 billion? Let alone it's a rookie director. Well, actually, not really, but I guess Dave Filoni's first live action movie. So yeah, technically it's a rookie producer or writer working on a film, and it's, luckily you're having Jon Favreau direct it, so that it's helping you a little bit. But a fairly new production staff. It's literally a TV character making a jump to film, that, let alone his TV show was a streaming show, and we've seen that fail before. Right? Look at the Marvels. That was largely a not really had the Marvel sequel, bringing in stuff from a Disney Plus TV show, and the audience was, at least the general audience, was frankly confused. They didn't know what was going on. Is that similar here? No, because I think Mandalorian's a much more popular show than Miss Marvel. So it has that going for it. Obviously, Star Wars, and of course, the current state of it's not too healthy. At least they have the stuff that Filoni and Favreau are working on, which is at least still exciting. But I still have to say, again, back to the question I was asking you: is this plot enough to make $1 billion for a movie again with a rookie writer doing his first big movie? And with dealing with characters and a storyline that originated from a TV show. Is that enough? Is this plot enough to make this movie hit $1 billion? Which is probably the target goal of any Star Wars film. I don't know. That's why I'm a little bit concerned here. If this is true, which again, this is coming from a very reliable source here, Christian Harloff, or at least someone who I trust with the connections he has. So I do believe this is true. I believe this is probably what it's going to be. Does it get me excited? It's kind of. I mean, yeah, cool. We're seeing Embo in live action. Cool. I don't think if you're not a Clone Wars fan, you have no idea who that is. So most of you are googling right now, probably, or after that report came out, and like, who the heck is this guy? Oh, it's a character from a cartoon show that I didn't even watch. Talking about, excuse me, speaking for the general public here, because um, I adore that show. That was my vibe when I was growing up there in elementary school in my youth. But yeah, is that enough for? Is that plot storyline enough to get seats in the theater or people in the theater seats? Is that enough to make $1 billion? I would question that, but I'm not the one making decisions over there. It's their this is their move, so we'll see. It's a fascinating move to say at least, pretty ballsy. I will say that, but I don't know if it's necessarily the flex they think it is, but I'll give them benefit of the doubt. But I would be lying to you if I'm kind of confused. And all alone, the whole casting situation is weird too. Because again, we barely even know who's in this movie. It's who is it? The actors from the Alien movies. I think it's Sigourney Weaver's in it. We know that Din Djarin's in it, so it'll be Pedro Pascal doing the voice, but he's obviously busy doing other stuff with Marvel because, of course, he'll be filming Avengers Doomsday starting soon, actually, fairly soon, which is crazy to think about. We'll be getting set photos probably pretty soon of that. So he's busy, so obviously he can't be there to film. And of course, he was filming Fantastic Four, so he'll be doing the voiceover stuff. Will be a stunt double. But so it's him, the actress from Alien, and I guess the voice actor for Zeb, and it'll be a stand-in, I guess. But then after that, it's like we don't know who else will be in this movie officially besides the actor from The Bear. But besides that, it's like, okay, so is Katie Sackhoff going to be in the movie? It doesn't sound like it. I think she's, if I recall, she did an interview where someone asked her that question. She's like, I can't answer that. So I would assume probably not, unfortunately, which doesn't make any sense. It's like, why not? I mean, okay, but this whole movie to me, again, it's just strange how it's kind of a big mystery. We just don't, we just have no idea. And we have Star Wars Celebration. It is this year, yes. It's in Japan, so we'll I guess we'll get our first big look there. Maybe they'll put out their first teaser, even though it's not coming out for another year or so. So I don't think we will, but we'll definitely get some footage there for sure. But okay, all right. Look, it's their decision. It's their look. If they want to go this route, if they think this story is bankable enough to get close to $1 billion or even surpass that, okay, they're more qualified than I am. They're the ones who have 15 or so degrees from different universities. I'm not going to question their qualifications. I'm just saying, from a fan standpoint, if I were looking for this, not taking off the Clone Wars, tinted glasses here, as a general audience member, do I believe a film plot surrounding a Mandalorian bounty hunter going against a other obscure bounty hunter from a animated TV show, going with a space slug son, is that enough for me to get myself in the movie theater? I would probably say if I were a general audience goer, if I were just probably the general public here, if I were not a Star Wars fan, I would probably say no, because again, it's very obscure characters are doing with. It's literally a movie about a character from a TV show that was on a streaming service that the majority of or at least not everyone will have access to because you have to pay for it. So again, from a general audience standpoint, no, this would not get me excited. From a as a Star Wars fan, yeah, I'm interested. I have questions about it, and I'm certainly have some concerns here. But as a general audience, if I were a general audience member, yeah, I would be concerned here. I have no idea what is this. It's almost like you're speaking, Japanese to me or some like Latin or something. It's like it doesn't register in my mind. So uh, look, it's if this is true again, I think it is. Pretty ballsy. Do I think it's going to work? I don't know. We'll see. We have little ways to go here. Heck, we haven't even gotten reasonable, clear footage yet of what the movie's going to look like, at least from a quality standpoint. So, some way to go there. But again, according to Christian Harloff, that's the plot of the movie from the people the connections that he has. So, and he has a lot of them. If you haven't caught what I'm trying to get there or what I'm trying to say there, but gonna get some water real quick here. We'll wrap up with some Marvel topics, and before that, we have a College Bowl 25 topic, no less. So, some water real quick here, and then we'll wrap up the show here. Not too much longer here. I think I think the voice will make it here. We've been going for almost an hour, so we're doing a lot better than I thought we were going to be doing. So, College Bowl 25 has been out for about 6 months or so, 6+ months, several months now. A lot of us at time have had time to have it nurture in our minds, have enough time to play it. I'm sure been playing a lot of it. Probably one of the best football video games I've played in a while. Is it a perfect game? No. But definitely a very good foundation has been laid out. I think I've actually given my review on it already. But that was back several months ago. But of course, they've added some stuff in there. They've made some changes, like for example, player customization finally has improved a whole lot. They've also made some other changes of adding in like new uniforms and stuff. So generally, the game I still give it. I forgot what score I gave it before, but if I had to do scale 1 to 10, probably 8.5, probably, which is still pretty good, a lot better than the recent Maddens. I'll say that. So that's at least good. So solid foundation. Not perfect, but pretty solid. Of course, like I mentioned earlier, College Bowl 26. Yes, EA confirmed it this afternoon. Of course, it's coming out. Like they had to remind us of that. This is coming out in the summer, probably around late July, probably mid to late July. So we'll have some time to wait on that. Of course, we have College Bowl 25 now, so we have a lot of time to play out the rest of that game and move on to the next. And of course, the trailer will probably come out sometime in May. If I had to guess, similar formula. Though I don't expect we'll get a teaser trailer like we did last time, especially for, of course, the series is brought back. So, of course, a teaser trailer being released it made sense. I don't know if they'll do it this time since it'll be a yearly release going forward, so they don't have to do that. But they may put something out, who knows, on Monday for the national championship like they were planning to do last year, but things changed. But something that I've pointed out, and Josh Pate pointed out, with this game coming back, the worry some of us have had is the calling out of play calling or questioning play calling. And I fully agree with Josh Pate here. When the game was out when the original series was going on until it ended in 2013, you had play calling, questioning out play calling, or at least calling it out was pretty nauseating. It was the usual stuff, like the early days of like Twitter and stuff and YouTube or like message boards and stuff. Like, oh, dude, I could call a better play. I could call a better, I could call a better offensive series than Lane Kiffin or Gus Malzahn or whatever. It was like stuff like that, and I kind of agree with Josh Pate a little bit annoying because calling a game in real life, like being a offensive coordinator or defensive coordinator, is so much different than it is in the video game world. In the video game world, all you have to do is just press buttons and, use very basic logic stuff. And there's also no consequences. Like I mentioned earlier, like there's no, like if you lose a game, your character is not going to get fired or unless you turn coaching firing off, but there's no like real world consequences here. Like you're not going to lose money if you get fired in the game. Like you just start a new file. But that's not the real world. The real world is the real world. There is stuff on the line. You have your little livelihood is on the line. Money's on the line. Your staff's jobs on the line. especially ones who are not the ones that you know the names of, like your nutritionist, PR people, marketing people, folks like that whose jobs sort of rely on your success. And that's why I've always sort of like Josh Pate, and I agree with him on this. People questioning play calling was going to be, at least our initial fears were going to be, with this game coming back, we were going to see a lot more folks questioning it again, because it sort of went away a little bit after once the last version of the game came out. For about a period of 10 years or so, you didn't see it as much. It was still there. Like, you'll see people questioning it here and there, but it wasn't like, oh man, I called this play and in say 14 and it worked, and this coach is so stupid you didn't know you could do this. Like, you sort of saw less and less of that as people moved on, the game sort of faded, if you will, into existence. But then the game came back, and that was an additional fear he had, and sort of I agreed with him too. I saw what he was talking. I understood what he was talking about. That you were probably going to see an influx of people calling out play calling. And I recall Oregon's offensive coordinator Will Stein brought it up too. He was like, "Yeah," sort of casual on Twitter, kind of paraphrasing here, but sort of a version of, "Oh yeah, such and such person be like, oh, how come you didn't use halfback director this play or that play?" It's like, stuff like that. So that was our initial fears. And I brought it up as much before the game came out, sort of, the worries I had with this game coming back. And that was one of them, that it was going to just potentially warp some people's perception of how the real world works versus the Xbox world or the PlayStation world. I would be happy to report to you, at least, knock on wood, it really hasn't happened this year. It's been fairly quiet. No real controversial, I guess, if you will, controversial play call, quote unquote, has existed enough to where people were questioning as much. Or a better way to put it, it hasn't been that much of an issue this year. But then again, knock on wood, because we still have the national championship game, and let alone something can happen then where people will use, oh, I call this in College Bowl 25. Marcus Freeman's an idiot. So that hasn't happened yet, and we still have one more game left. So to answer that question, has the questioning of play calling been that much of an issue since the games came back? As of right now, no. Is that guaranteed to be the case going forward? Probably no, but I am at least glad that it has not been that much of an issue, that we have seen it sort of fester in the online community. From what I've seen on Twitter, I haven't really seen that much people using the whole, oh, I called this in College Bowl 25. Drake Shadow should have called this, or Lane Kiffin should have called this. I'll be honest, and I'm glad this is the case. I haven't seen a whole lot of it. So it sounds like people like me, Josh Pate, we have been doing the College Football world's work. We have, we warn people about it, and it seems like people have listened to our warning, and there's not been a lot of questioning play calling, and really, let alone a lot of people questioning head coaches in general, which is a good thing. Again, like I said back in the summer, and like I said earlier, there is a difference between how, for example, Dynasty mode, for example, in the video game is not, it's not the same thing as coach's work, or excuse me, how a actual head coach's job works in the real life. There's so many things that you have to do as a head coach now that are not represented in the video game, like meeting with players, actually going on the road and recruiting, thinking about marketing yourself, prepping game plans, going to practice every single day. Like, those are so many things that the video game kind of dives into, but it's very, very basic. Like, if they made, if EA really wanted to, if EA really wanted this to be a 1-for-1 recreation college football job simulator, I would guarantee you a lot of the, I guess even some of the hardcores too, to a certain extent, will find that very difficult. Like, it would not be fun. It'll be very hard, and you would not understand mostly what's going on. Because again, what head coaching in a video game is not the same in real life. I hope you guys understand that. I think, again, based on how the season has gone and how we have not seen a lot of folks been using the video game as a comparison, so far it looks like me and Josh Pate's jobs here have been accomplished. It seems like we've warned people about that. It seems like you've taken the warning. You've been pretty. It seems like things have been pretty status quo for the most part. But again, there is a difference there. Again, it's not It's not so easy as just, oh, I can be a head coach. I can, click a couple buttons in recruiting and go get this 5-star quarterback. It's so easy. I don't have to recruit. I can just go edit my players. You can't do that in real life. You can't edit. You can't edit players. You can't, like I said earlier, restart a dynasty file if you think it's too hard or change the difficulty level. Your job is your job in real life. You can't. It's just like if I was working at, I don't know, like Chick-fil-A, I can't like go in the settings and change the level of difficulty the kitchen has or how difficult the drive-through line is. I can't. You can't do that. In video games, you can. In real life, you can't. So I want to once again hammer home there is a difference here. And again, I am glad that people have heeded these warnings, and us and Josh Pate, it's us on this show, and Josh Pate have warned you guys that comparing the video game to the way coaches operate in real life is not, again, repeat, not a good comparison. It's a horrible comparison. Again, nothing against EA, nothing against the game. It's just me and him and I share my concerns with him when I privately towards him, but I agree with him. I also had the same concerns. I had you know, concerns that people were gonna, with this game coming back, we're gonna warp reality, thinking, oh, coaching college football is just like coaching the video game. Well, it's not. And, then again, we've had some knuckleheads um, put on their resumes, oh, I coached college football, at Notre Dame, and I won 12 national championships, and they cite college football 25. It's like, I, of course, that's trolling, but I guess that's the only thing we've really seen. But even then, that's sort of like a meme. But again, for the most part, it seems like people have heeded those warnings and are not using the video game as to comparing real life coaching to a video game. So I'm very glad to happy to report that we have not, I at least to my knowledge, have not seen that happen on the internet and like message boards and Twitter and stuff like that. So again, I'm glad I'm wrong about that. So hopefully that will carry over to next year. Because again, that is not a fair comparison. Comparing the video game to real life is something that is not the same thing. It's a video game. It is made to be a lot simpler. Again, if EA really wanted to make these video games, both the Madden and college football video games, if they really wanted to make these games like an actual job, you would hate it. Like you would hate it. Like if you had to deal with what these coaches have to deal with in real life, like it would probably melt your brain, but it would just make you just uh, trust me, you would not like it. Based on what I've heard from the industry insiders and how the actual the way these coaching jobs actually work, or at least how these coaches actually operate and stuff, and how the running an actual football program looks like. It's not fun, and like just like what Josh Pate says, it's not a fairy tale world. So I won this segment by saying, yes, I am happy. The questioning play calling has not been as severe I thought it would be, or let alone comparing real life to the video game. It seems like the warnings were heeded, they were listened to, and hopefully, and I'll probably say the same thing again at some point between now and the fall, that again, do not compare these two. These are not the same things, and do not even dare questioning play calling and acting like it's you could do it. So if that's the case, if you're one of those few people who still think that way, go say that to Lane Kiffin, go say that to Steve Sarkisian, go say that to Kalen DeBoer, go say that to Ryan Day. Let alone sitting on your couch playing a video game is the same thing as game preparation, looking at film and doing all this different stuff. It's not. I hate to spoil it to you. It's not. So again, I'm glad people have heeded the warnings, and it's not been as bad as it could have been, because it very well could have been a disaster this year. But the game coming back and again, I'm glad it's back. But ooh, it would have been could have been pretty bad if if there was a whole lot more questioning play calling. Again, it could have been really bad with the questioning it, but again, luckily it's not, and people heeded the warning, so that's good. It looks like me and Josh Pate, our warnings have worked for you guys, and it seems like it was mostly avoided for the most part. Again, from my point of view, I don't know if Josh has experienced some different stuff, but from my point of view, the questioning play calling and the comparisons between real life and the game have been very, 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 very minimal. I may have seen maybe one or two people who have actually done that, which is good. It could have been a lot worse, but thankfully it's not. So Got some more water there real quick, and we have two more topics here to wrap up the show here. Again, if you're new here, make sure you subscribe to the channel, like the stream, follow us on Twitter, all that, the boilerplate stuff. Um, let's see here on the old to-do list here. So we did the Marvel, still have the two Marvel topics, and then we'll wrap it up here. So, um, actually, yeah, I guess we'll bring this up. So Captain America: Brave New World comes out in a few weeks. It comes out President's Day weekend, if I recall correctly. Whew, excuse me here. The voice is starting to go out a little bit, but I think we'll be okay. Let me start over here. Captain America: Brave New World comes out President's Day weekend, so in a few weeks. The movie there's been a lot of leaks and rumors going around. I'm sure a lot of you have seen the projections and stuff. The numbers, not necessarily that great in terms of the box office numbers. Now, mind you, for the normal fan and just the casual person, that's not something you should worry about. Excuse me, that's not really something you should be worried about. But if you're like a film executive or a director, you should be worried about that. Or at least be following it to a certain extent. But I do have some general concerns here. A couple things I'll point out here as to why I'm concerned. Now, I'm not saying the movie's gonna be trash or anything. It looks good. It does have. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I think we actually did a segment like this, but well, I mean, then again, it's a new year and the movie's literally coming out soon. So yeah, kind of. I guess it is time to bring it back, bring this topic back up. But do have some concerns though. Still, some of the same ones I believe we did back in the summer or I think in the fall too. But still, generally some concerns here. The first one is the reshoots. There have been a ton of reshoots on this movie. They spent a whole lot of money on this. They've literally had to reshoot. Probably, I believe the number floating out there is like 60% of the movie, which is not good. To say at least, that's pretty worrisome. But then again, people will tell you, "Oh, it's Marvel. They do reshoots a lot." That's true, but to have a movie being reshot like 60% of it, especially the opening part, which was originally going to deal with different characters from the Serpent Society. Now that's been changed to Giancarlo Esposito's character, who was brought in early during reshoots. So that whole opening sequence in the movie, which was going to have, who was it, the guy Seth Rollins, a wrestler? He's not in the movie, so that whole opening sequence, was probably going to be with him. It was the whole opening of the movie has totally been changed. At least that's been what I have been telegraphed, and all the other Twitter scoopers and stuff have been saying. So the whole beginning of the movie's been changed. Some other parts have been changed as well. Tweaks have been made. Certainly a lot of reshoots been made on this movie, and they spent a lot of time on it. That's a concern, again, especially if if the original movie sucked. Is the reshoots any better? A classic example of this was Rogue One for Star Wars. They originally shot the original. They completed the original version of the movie with Gareth Edwards, I believe. Test audiences, much like with they're going to deal with right now with Captain America, did not like it. It was pretty poorly tested, which is somewhat normal. But to the extent Rogue One had the reshoots and some of the stuff that came out afterwards, and how Tony Gilroy literally had to come in and put on the Superman cape and just save the whole thing, kind of concerning to a certain extent. So that sort of happened here, and I wonder, sort of like Rogue One, will the reshoots benefit the movie? I can't say for sure if they will. Some other stuff here, again, the test audience, negative test audience stuff, that's kind of goes in part of it. The leaks that have come out from this movie, some of the stuff I've heard, again, I'm not going to go into those here because the podcast is already going for over an hour. But if I were going to, some of the stuff I've read, this is on Reddit, so you can look up like Captain America: Brave New World leaks on Reddit. There's a whole the stuff's still up there, I believe. Like the leaks and stuff that have been up there, or at least out there, are still available on Reddit. At least I believe still. But at least some of the stuff I've heard and some of the rumors, like for example, I don't know what that noise is. I think that's my apartment's near the interstate, so there's usually a lot of those 18 wheelers and the tires pop. I just heard that, so I don't know what that was. But what was I saying? Oh yeah, that's right, the leaks. So in the leaks, there's the character of Amadeus Cho, who is a character related to the Incredible Hulk in the comics. He is supposedly in this movie, and based on what the leaks are saying, it doesn't sound like that edition really is going to benefit the movie. At least that sounds like on paper. But That's the only concern. Some of the dialogue too from John Carlos is pretty basic, which is okay. So that's a little bit worrisome. Uh, then again, the fact that again they've had the title change from New World Order to Brave New World, okay, a little concerning there. The fact that they've been hiding what how the leader's gonna look like. I forget the actor's name. Who I actually know who this guy is. The guy who's playing the leader. Why am I forgetting his name? Anyway, we still haven't seen what he looks like yet. Let me go look up his name because I should know who this is. Um, bear with me here. We're doing some on the fly research here. How do I not know who this is? Brave New World. Yeah, how do I not know who this is? Let me check here. Oh yeah, Tim Blake Nelson. Yes, so we have not seen um him actually in the whole leader makeup yet. Now we've had late concept art and late images, but we haven't actually seen actually him wearing the prosthetics and stuff. And they've been hiding it in the trailers, which is frankly a little bit concerning because it's not almost like they're hiding it a little bit, as it's like they're kind of ashamed of it, or it's not finished yet. So if the whole Modoc situation from Ant-Man Quantumania is any indication, then I would not blame you for being concerned there. So just that, again, some dialogue stuff we've heard from the leaks concerning. Again, the fact they've added in some other characters that a lot of folks who have wanted to see it from the comics are in this movie that haven't been revealed yet. And apparently they have their additions aren't really like they don't make the movie any better, which is concerning a little bit. So all that being said, again, of course the other big one too, it's gonna have the same vibe as Winter Soldier. Okay, cool. You said that about the Falcon Winter Soldier show. You also said that about Secret Invasion. Both of those shows are pretty bad, and Secret Invasion was an abomination. Just bleh. So those are two projects that I went over two with the whole it's just like Winter Soldier vibes. Well, you said that about both of those movies, and they both spectacularly failed. At least the TV shows, at least vibe wise. So now you're saying it the same thing with this, and again, it looks like you're doing the same thing, and it has that same vibe to it, has that sort of political thriller, spy thriller type stuff that Winter Soldier had. Can you actually do it this time? Can you execute it properly? Are the performances good enough? Is Anthony Mackie in his first big movie by himself, or at least him being the big, him and Harrison Ford being the big lead actors here, is that enough? Are people going to get sold on him? Because I'm not going to sit here and act like some other people who are saying, oh, Anthony Mackie being Captain America and then going in this direction was horrible. I don't mind it. I just think the execution has been poor with the characters. I think him being Captain America makes sense. I think based on the way the MCU has been formatted a lot differently than the comics, it makes a lot of sense, right? But the execution has just not been good enough. I'll be honest with that. It's not been good enough. It's been pretty poor, with at least with him being Captain America. Can this movie change those people's minds? Hopefully it will. Not guaranteed it will either. and then not to mention this whole Harrison Ford playing President Ross, who takes over for William Hurt, who passed away, the original actor who played him. Him as Red Hulk, him as the president. Well, can Harrison Ford give off a good performance? He's a good actor. Him as Han Solo, him as Indiana Jones has been synonymous with pop culture now. Does he still have that ability to carry a big movie like this? Is this outside of the Star Wars films, this is probably the biggest movie he's been in his career. Again, outside of Star Wars, I know Indiana Jones would be up there, but those are a little more smaller, kind of like indie style movies, like very small, lower budget films. Those are not, well, I say that, but then the last two movies with Crystal Skull and Dial of Destiny were pretty expensive. So, but just in general, in terms of a franchise, this and Star Wars are the two biggest ones he's been in, and so this is a big deal for him. Probably one of his last big roles he's probably going to have for a while, at least for the rest of his career, I think. So hopefully he can do well. I've always been a big fan of his. Hopefully, his Red Hulk won't be too stupid looking. Now, from a CGI standpoint, it looks fantastic. Some of the best effects I've seen in a while, at least in this decade. So that does look good. But again, is it how's the movie structured? Is it is the flow of the movie very good? Is Is there some areas? Is there the act? Does it just the flow of the movie? Do some areas? Do some areas drag longer than others? Do some scenes feel shorter? Is the pacing off a little bit? That stuff obviously we won't know until the initial reactions come out. Excuse me, but at least from what I am seeing from the trailers, obviously you can't tell that, but those are some questions I do have, some concerns there. Um, so yeah, those are some concerns for Captain America: Brave New World. I'm excited for it, but then again, there's a lot of concerns I still have. Of course, I will go to see this movie. I'll let you guys know what I think of it, but when it comes out, but I'll of course be lying to you if I am still concerned. Again, who knows? This could be very, very good. This could be gold. Marvel could potentially strike gold here, or this could be complete crap. So who knows? Again, I'm giving this very much so a decent enough chance. I'm excited for it for the most part, but I'll be lying to you if I am concerned. And there's certainly a lot of valid concerns I do have. So I'm gonna wrap this up here real quickly with Daredevil trailer came out yesterday. Quick little review here, reaction to it. I think it looks really good. I think from anything we have seen from Marvel Television, and it's been pretty bad for Marvel TV in terms of the results we've gone. Like WandaVision, Loki, both 2 seasons of Loki, and that's kind of it. Like, what if, for example, the final season apparently was terrible? I didn't even bother watching it. It was everyone was saying it was bad. That's a whole other topic we'll probably do next week. But just in general, Marvel TV, television wise, has been actually worse than Star Wars. At least Star Wars has had more success, right? Yeah, Mandalorian, Ahsoka, Clone Wars, Bad Batch. Even though Clone Wars is sort of grandfathered in, excuse me, and you have also Tales of the Jedi. So much better resume, at least TV wise, that Star Wars has. Of course, that Andor too. Well, that's somewhat divisive, but at least from a critical standpoint, the better track record of Star Wars television versus Marvel. But with all that being said, this does look like the first Marvel TV show, at least in my opinion, outside of like Loki and WandaVision, that I'm actually excited for. This looks actually pretty good. The violence is there, definitely on par of the original Netflix show, what I have watched before, by the way. So I know how violent that show got. And I ain't just that, like the Jessica Jones show was pretty violent too and pretty dark too. A lot of weird stuff going on in that. But if it is the same vibe, which it definitely looks like from the trailers, and it certainly does, I'm very excited about this. I am definitely intrigued by it. Then again, there's also a chance it may not be that good. Again, this show went for a complete control, creative overhaul. The original leaks, by the way, didn't really mirror the Netflix show at all. And in fact, they shot one episode and they were just the folks over like the higher ups, like Feige and all of them were just like, no, we're not doing this. This looks like crap. We're starting over. We're bringing in. We're basically just said, look, we're gonna make this a basically a Daredevil season 4 or 5, how many seasons it was. Basically, the next season of Netflix's Daredevil. That's basically what it is. Bringing back the original actors and stuff. A lot of the original cast is coming back. Um, again, the same vibe is still there. Based on the trailers, the action looks really good. And again, having Vincent D'Onofrio and who's got Charlie Cox, who plays a Daredevil. Again, those two guys finally on screen again after they were, at least since their introductions in the MCU, have been separate, right? Kingpin, Wilson Fisk was introduced, and Hawkeye, the Hawkeye show, and then of course Daredevil returned in Spider-Man. At least they made their first proper MCU appearances and separate stuff, and they haven't been on screen together yet. And here they are now. I'm very excited. Again, as someone who loved the original Daredevil show, I will check this out. Obviously, I'll give you guys my thoughts on the show when it does come out, which will be in a few months. But again, just based on the trailer, definitely looks like the creative overhaul from the footage we have seen has paid off. It definitely has, and I wonder what the actual show, what the original version was going to be. Now, there's been leaks out there as to what the original version was going to be versus what we are getting, which was just a whole new show. So, and again, that might be a while before this came out, but it'll be interesting to see in the coming years to come what the original version of the show was going to be versus what we're going to get. And I'm really glad they actually took the time and just said, stop, we're going to stop filming. We'll restart this. And it sounds like it's paid off for them. So kudos for them for again, I know it's a trailer, but based on what we've seen so far, it's, golf clap. Very, very excited there. And then that's it for the show. So my voice is going out. This is the longest show we've had in a while. Um, how long have we been going for now? Yeah, an hour and 20. So this is a pretty massive show. So actually a bit of a programming note here, actually, before we end the show. We are not doing a Tuesday show. We are actually moving the Tuesday show to after the national championship game on Monday. So we'll be having a very late show. I'll let you guys know. I'll create the stream. It'll probably go live around 11:30, 11:45. So it will be a later show. So it will not be there will not be a Tuesday show. It will instead be a Monday night college football national championship reaction there, and then we'll uh, dive into maybe some very general first initial thoughts on next year or next season, if you will, and going to spring practice. Maybe some focus teams we'll talk about. At least teams I'm interested in going to spring practice. But yes, there will not be a show on Tuesday. We will have a live show on Monday night. The podcast feed will probably come out on that Tuesday. So yeah, no show Tuesday, but there will be a reaction show Monday night after national championship game. So join us on YouTube. We'll be on there live for a little bit, and then that will sort of substitute. Ooh, weird burp there. Substitute. I said substitute a couple times. The Tuesday show will just a stream on Monday night. So we'll just do it like that. So no Tuesday show. We'll be back on the regular schedule after that. So it's going to get a little weird here, but then we'll be back to the regularly scheduled programming with 2 shows per week on Monday and Thursday. So until next Monday night, again, not Tuesday, next Monday night, enjoy this weekend, enjoy the NFL games, and also, I guess, enjoy the national championship game. Hopefully we get a good game, but it's not guaranteed. If you want to know my thoughts on that game, go to the last show that was on Tuesday. So until Monday night, enjoy the games this weekend for NFL. Enjoy the national championship game. If you're an Iowa State fan, Notre Dame fan, good luck to you. Until Monday night, take care, have a good weekend, and we'll see you after the national championship game.